And we are live here at the Malta AI and Blockchain Summit, right off the main conference floor. Really a bunch of interesting people that we've had speak today in the main conference hall and in the different workshops. I have with me here speaking of interesting people, Mr. John Conley. He's a professor of economics at Vanderbilt, and he's also the founder and chief economist for a project Geeq.
Yes.
Geeq. So tell me, John, a little bit about Geeq. I know we spoke over a glass of wine last night.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about Geeq and what brought you here to Malta.
Sure. So Geeq is an infrastructure blockchain project. It uses a new protocol called Proof of Honesty that I developed, and it's different from proof of stake, proof of work, proof of authority, because it lets the user at the edge decide what is correct, what honesty is, instead of counting upon a consensus of nodes that have an interest in line sometimes.
Well, that is really interesting, and I picked that up last night, but it was kind of like, okay. And so the user is playing this role that normally a miner or a node would play.
Yeah.
So can we unpack that a little bit and how that works?
Sure. Well, think of it this way. All blockchains are deterministic. You know, you have input, you have output, state transition machines, so they all work in a way that you should be able to verify. But the problem is if you have a consensus, so the majority say red is blue, then red is blue. And, well, we know it's not blue, but now what do? We're out of luck. So our approach is to say that there's all kinds of fake news in the world, but if I can identify the fake news, it really doesn't matter that it's being told to me, as long as I can also identify what's correct.
Right.
So if we can, you and I, identify that there's 3 or 4 people saying what's right, we can only talk to them, done and done.
Right. And, okay, and so is there an algorithm?
Yes.
Okay, and let's talk about the algorithm.
Oh, if you really want to.
Well, so I was the first doing Yes script as a hashing algorithm in the blockchain.
Oh, okay.
So it's somewhat interesting to me.
Sure. Happy to, actually. There's shortest version is this. We have a hub and spoke network. We've got an ecosystem of instances of chains, so it's a multi-chain ecosystem. Each of the chains might have 10, 25 nodes, and that's key to making something work quickly and also cheaply. If you've got 30,000 nodes on Ethereum, you got to pay them all, right? So, but if they don't really add a security, then why have them? So we've got a relatively small number of nodes on each chain. They're a hub and spoke network, which rotates randomly, doesn't matter how it does. The key part is that a user will ask a node to prove that they're honest, and that's done through Merkle proofs. And you, if you're honest, can demonstrate that to me. If you're not honest or don't want to, then I don't talk to you. All right, so the nodes, I choose an honest node, I send it a transaction, you collect them, you sign them as a node, send them to the hub signs that collection of node transactions bundles, sends them back to the nodes, and here's the key. Every single node is now looking at the same set of potential transactions. So the signing and the algorithm guarantees that you can only look at that one single set of candidate transactions.
Sure.
But nobody is a block proposer. So the hub didn't actually propose a block. He just proposed things that might be true.
Okay.
And then the nodes have their own view of what is true, and they update the ledger according to what they think is correct. And now we say, check their work. Are they correct?
I see.
And then that's how we keep an honest ledger. And there's some additional game theoretic elements that also have auditing and so forth.
Right. So that is fantastic. And then how did you get into this? Were you working on different blockchain projects, or have your own algorithm proof of honesty? Sure.
So I'm a game theorist by trade, mathematical economist. I spent a sabbatical year at Microsoft Research in 2016-17, and somebody asked me to build a blockchain for IoT.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, I can do that. And looked at the selections, looked at Ethereum. I said, can't do it. It's not secure enough, costs too much, won't scale. So what do you do?
Right.
So I'm a game theorist. I thought, well, let's figure out how you design a mechanism that generates truth-telling in coalition proof equilibrium, technically.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And then it turned out to be much harder than that. It took about a year and a half to actually get it all right. And we have a company, and now we're writing the code. We've got 14 people working.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about the company, but if I could talk a little bit about your work as a professor as well.
Yeah.
So what do your students think about your work in the blockchain space? Is that something that you talk about?
Well, I actually wrote a course in ICT, Information Communication Technology Economics.
Okay.
So in economics, all kinds of things are said about technology. It's an industrial organization, law and economics, everywhere. But no one really knows what we say about it because it's everywhere.
Right.
So I tried to write a course that integrated it, and I'm just about to start teaching the blockchain part of it, but I've taught cloud computing and protocols and communications, and so no, they're interested. And it really sort of amazing to me. I think if anybody's coming out of, say, a business school, they ought to have a course like that.
I definitely agree. Obviously, I'm entrenched in the business here. But the feedback that I am getting, of course, from this generation is that they're excited about it.
Yeah.
They see it as the future. And is that what you're seeing as well?
Yes, I think so. I think the new generation really is interested in empowerment and decentralization.
Right.
And this is actually one of the key things that I talk about, that there's a confluence of technologies. There's cloud computing, which means we've got infinite capacity to store information.
Right.
We've got universal connectivity, which means every device is telling everything about you at every moment. So that data is getting in there. And we've got ML and AI, which is now interpreting the data and figuring out what you're going to do tomorrow.
I know.
So all of these things are centralized.
Right.
Blockchain is the only thing that we have as a species, actually, that can oppose that. So I think that's why it's so important that it's the one, bulwark against the evils of centralization.
Yeah, well,
so
that is a great way to break it down. You even really made me feel something when you did it, because you're absolutely correct. And that's part of what, you look around here and people say, well, what are the type of people that come to these things? And I said, well, it's actually kind of all a similar type of people. We're more of a libertarian, base. We don't really want huge overbearing government. We want to be...
At least we want to be able to have some power.
Right.
And not to be a victim of whatever we're told to do.
Whoever's elected at that given time, and whoever's in office or whatever. So that is amazing. So then let's switch gears to Geeq. You've been at it a year and a half. You have 15 people working for you now.
Yep.
Have you raised money?
We've raised some initial seed money, and we're now actually on our way to Singapore to talk to some investors, and I can't say who else we're talking to compliance-wise.
Right.
But yeah. So we're sort of in the point where we're doing the big raise to go big.
And you're going to have a token? Or
we have a token.
Okay.
Yeah, and the reason for the token. So actually, this isn't here, and the criticism is correct that there's very few actual business problems need a blockchain. Just use a database, right? And very few blockchain problems need a token. Right? So in our case, we need both, because the token is actually something that rewards the nodes as a piece rate. Every single time you validate a transaction, you get paid.
Right.
And you as a user pay every single time. So it's incentivizing, it pays the nodes, it virtual machine services, it can do micropayments, whatever. But really the purpose is, without it, there'd be no incentive compatible mechanism.
Right.
So it has to be there.
Well, that is so cool. And do you plan to do something more than kind of a pre-sale? Will you do an offering, or what are you thinking?
So I'm not sure I'm allowed to say.
Okay. Well, it's all regulated now, especially for guys like us that are in the U.S. and U.K. or whatever. It's like it's no joke. Yeah,
no, it isn't. No, SEC scares me to death.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I don't want to do anything illegal either. I have really no interest.
Of course, you're established and professional and well respected. So I know I gave you my card about Miami. I would love to have you join us.
Yes, I'd like to. Yeah, please.
January 14, 15. That's right ahead of the North American Bitcoin Conference. This is also a huge
fantastic
conference. Kind of like this one. It might even be more people. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But that'll be fantastic. So, John, I really appreciate you coming on. What's the website and social media? How do people find you?
Geeq.io, Geeq.io, and from there you can get every place you want to go. Thank you, sir.
Conley. Thanks so much for coming on. We'll see you soon.
Thanks.